the solution to deal with the perennial problem of attachments the Shastras have given us is to use the acts of detachment. The acts of detachment is mentioned in the 15th chapter of the Gita. The Shastras continuously remind us about the effects of getting attached. Now, when we talk of getting attached, you understand how it works, because the mind cannot remain without developing an attachment. It is the very nature of the mind to develop an attachment. Since you have a mind, it will have to be attached to something or the other. That's its very dharma. That's its very nature. Since you have an intellect, you have to be detached. That is the nature of the intellect. So both are playing its roles. But you got to use this attachment and detachment as a module, as a methodology to evolve. So only one element comes in, then it doesn't help. For example, as I said, the mind develops attachment. The job of the intellect is to snap that attachment and develop a sense of detachment. So when your mind is attached, the intellect must come in with wisdom to bring in a sense of normalcy, so that you go beyond that scope of attachment. And then when you go to the higher, again, your mind will develop an attachment. Just look at your own life. As early as your memory can serve, when you are a child, when you got enough knowledge to become assertive of your toys, you say, my toy. The moment you become possessive of them, that's perhaps your first attachment, consciously. And as you grow, you go into your kindergarten, you go to your schools, you go to your colleges, universities. At different stage, you have been developing attachment to your friends, to your classmates, to the classroom, to the bench. Nowadays, when you watch movies, some movie or other, they'll take you back. They go back after 25 years to the same classroom, to the same bench that apparently exists. And then they go and sit and think of, this is what I did when I sat there, 30 years ago. Attachment. Fast friends. So attachment to friends, to the bicycle, to the motorbike, attachment to your first job or your degree. You move on. Attached to family, attachment to your children, attachment to your grandchildren. And you get, midst of all this, you get fed up. You want to do you are involved in some politics, you're attached to politics, which party you support. Then you get fed up of politics, you want to do some social service, you get attached to the social service you do. Some club, you get into Lions Club, Rotary Club, this club, that club, you get attached to that service, you're entering to that avenue. And then you get fed up of all the politics there also, and then you get to the You find hold of some guru, you attach to the guru. You do some spiritual practices, you attach to the spiritual practices. So what has happened right from your first object of attachment to the last thing that you perhaps drop, the highest attachment is attachment to the very spiritual practice itself. The common thing is attachment has followed. That has never left you, that will never leave you. And then after attachment to the spiritual knowledge or the guru, what happens then? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Again, come back to your attachment to your dolls, attachment to your toys. This carries on, this goes on. So if this is going to be the way how life would lead you, this also would be a way how to deal with what life puts you through, isn't it? So wherever you are expected to snap yourself out of it. You're expected to get yourself out of it. How? With the knowledge and wisdom, with the acts of detachment. So the real growth is perhaps being slightly ahead of the stage or the phase you are. If you're in the toy world, if somehow you can show detachment to the toys, you are extraordinary. If you are in the youth and passion, if you can somehow show a little detachment to all the youth and passion can draw you to, you're extraordinary. If you are in the chase of proprietorship, name and fame and power and position and status, if you can show little maturity and objectivity, a little detachment to it, you're extraordinary. Even when you are in the spiritual field, when you understand this is just a journey, I don't want to be bound by what I'm doing, you are a true spiritual seeker. You're extraordinary. So just try to be in it and yet at the same time out of it. You got to just find a way out to snap yourself out of it. The easiest thing to do is to be attached. Now, in order to be detached, you need extraordinary awareness, extraordinary sense of clarity and perception, so that you have a clear sight of the goal and the means doesn't limit or bind you. As I've said, the 5 points. The first point, what attachment does. The first thing I said, binds you. So if at all you have to develop attachment, why don't you develop an attachment to something better? That's all I'm saying. You can't remain by being 100% detached. It's not possible. In spite of it, there will be some level of attachment because you still have the mind, you still operating on your desires and all. But wherever possible, how much ever possible, inject this wisdom so the degree of attachment drops. Two things happen when you inject this wisdom. The degree of attachment drops, the object of attachment changes. You reduce the degree of your attachment now. Whatever you're attached to, you understand there's no big deal getting carried away with it. The degree drops slowly and the direction, the object of attachment changes. So the 5 points we did clearly mention. I just quickly recap. First, we said, Harish, you remember the points?
Yes, Guruji. It binds you, it limits you, it defines you, it causes a great amount of pain and suffering, and you lose the object of attachment. It is taken away from you.
Perfect. Attachment binds you, limits you, defines you. It it causes great pain and suffering. You lose the object of your attachment. And it's happening right now to something that you're attached to. That's the interesting thing, isn't it? It's happening right now. So you got to find out where. It's not in order, but it's just something which you have to relate this concept, relate these principles to your life. And bring in the wisdom to see how to deal with it. And there's a real joy in such a battle. Even to know whether I'm attached to it, you must have a little detachment to be able to examine yourself. It's called self-analysis, isn't it? You want to analyze yourself, you must be very objective, isn't it? All right, Harish?
Yes, good.
All right. All I'm saying, at least you should know what you're attached to. And to what extent you're attached to. If you don't know the disease, how can there be a cure? You go to a doctor and say, I don't know what's happening to me. What is happening? I don't know what's happening. Tell me something about what's happening. I know something's happening. I don't know what's happening. Has it to put through you to 500 tests in the hospital? From head to toe, each organ, there'll be so many tests. Is it possible to go through that? Ridiculous. At least you should know what's happening to you. You should know what your Redigaru, attachment is nothing but what? When I say you should know what you're attached to, attachment means what, sir?
Attachment is nothing but a pain. I mean, to say in terms of.
You're concluding, sir. I'm only beginning, sir.
So something, it draws you out all your energies. Any attachment.
It saps your energy. Yes, but I'm saying if you have to go through this exercise, let's say if I have to go through the exercise of finding out what I'm attached to, okay? Now the question is, what is attachment? How do I know what is attachment? What should I read to know what I'm attached to?
Something where all the mind is carving for.
Correct.
And continuously.
Where the mind is flowing when it's left to itself.
Yes.
That's how you know what you're attached to. That's the most simple, and yet it is direct. When your mind is left to itself, where does it go? That is what you're attached to. And since mind has no direction or dimension, it is the intellect that gives a direction. If the mind is going in a particular direction, you pull the mind from that and say, no, don't waste your time there. Invest it in this pursuit. That is the sadhana. That is a spiritual exercise we all continuously need to do, to draw the mind from something and plant it on the higher.
Yes, good.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's good.
So just even examine the mind. Where is the mind going? What is it doing? What is it up to?
Guruji, sometimes this attachment to a good things also becomes too obsessive. Like an example, we talk about the plants. I love and fall in love with the plants the moment I saw. And so much so that you just cross your all boundaries and limits to see that. And somewhere I don't think you can put in a limit factor, even though conscious or intelligent intellect has been saying so. I don't know how to deal with that sort of situations. Whether it did a good cause also, it overwhelms you the moment you get into that, because it makes you, where you want to buy 2 plants, you buy 10 plants. And when you buy 10 plants, then you don't have parts. Then you go buy, when you buy parts, then instead of buying 10 parts, you buy 15 parts. Then you say, again, there is a plants shortage. You keep rolling in that cycle. So even a good cause or good things also sometimes maybe something difficult to hold on to the limiting factors. We know while what we are our actions, it's clearly spelling out that you are crossing, you are overreaching on the most of the things. Maybe the same thing applies to the some of our habits. Most probably that makes a huge difference. Like yesterday's Lalit Kapoorji's thing. So many things can get cured by way of your own thinking way.
So the fact that you see the other side of your joy you find with the plants itself is a sign that you see the little childish excitement in that.
Yes.
It's good to have plants, but then are you worshipping the plants? Watch out, if you worship the plants, next Janma you'll be born as a plant. Because the law of attachment is as you think, so you become, sir. I am not saying anything, the law says itself. Morning to night, I think of plants, 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 you will become a plant. Morning to night, you're only eating plants, you'll become an animal. No, that doesn't mean you should not eat. Please eat healthy food. So it's again,
Yes.
you have to not become a slave to anything, sir. You be in everything, with everything, around everything possible. Anything that you feel is absolutely legitimate, go around with freely. That's what in the Sthita Prajna portion it says, a man of perfection is one who moves like a tortoise, he says. A tortoise goes about freely moving wherever it wants to. But moment it suspects danger, it withdraws its limbs. So now you're able to read your mind that perhaps it's getting unnecessarily getting too much drawn away by the gardening or the plants or whatever it is. I'm just giving the example you're taken.
Yes, yes.
But if you understand that, quickly withdraw from it.
Withdraw it.
Withdraw it and be conscious. But don't let the plants die. Let them be watered, do whatever they need to. Yeah. Don't discard them. Give it the due attention, necessary attention.
That's true, Guruji.
So just watch the mind. In simple words, mind the mind. When I say mind the mind, what is it, Rajima?
Watch where your mind wanders.
Be mindful of the mind, isn't it? Watch the mind. Be conscious of the mind. But never say never mind. Don't say never mind. Huh? In fact, Setuji the other day posted a question. He asked me, clarified something with me. He asked, what is the principle of karma and bhakti with reference to, do you recall exactly what did you ask, Setuji?
Hari Om Guruji. My question was, this self-realization one attains only with jnana, or one can, because lot of Tyagaraja, Purandradas, Ramdas, they all say through bhakti they became self-realized. So one can one attain self-realization even through karma, bhakti, like jnana? That's what I was.
Okay, right. Now, the question might seem apparently out of context, but the reason I asked Setuji for the question is the principle that underlies all the 3 yogas. Yoga or in Sanskrit, yuj. Yoga is nothing but a union with the higher, is to unite to the higher or the highest. The highest is self-realization. So yoga is a path to unite with the higher, and the highest would be self-realization. So yoga is the path or the means to detach from the lower and attach to the higher. That is yoga. So when I'm using my physical action to unite to something higher, it's called karma yoga. When I'm using my mind to detach from the emotional entanglements and attach to something higher, it is bhakti yoga. When I use the intellect to go beyond the mere dabbling of ideas and concepts and get to the wisdom which lies in the same bowels of those words, it is jnana yoga. So when I use the body, mind, and intellect to unite with the higher, to attach to the higher, is yoga. So the solution to attachment is the path of yoga. To get on with karma, bhakti, jnanam. Karma is service and sacrifice. Bhakti is an awareness of what you have been provided with. Bhakti is an awareness of what you're provided with. Sashikanji, bhakti is what, sir?
Hari Om Guruji.
Yeah.
Bhakti is an art of devotion which we practice maybe to reach the higher goal.
Absolutely. But what that art of bhakti, what does it constitute? In fact, there are two elements in that art of bhakti is what is being brought out here, or just briefly mentioned. As you rightly said, the art of bhakti. What is the art of bhakti? As I said, one element is an awareness of what providence has provided.
Provided with every soul.
Sorry, sir? Provided with?
Every soul.
Yeah, every individual. Everyone has been provided with. So that's the first element. And once you become aware of what providence is provided, then what?
One should be thankful to, one should be maybe grateful to the level of, bhakti provided to you. Gratification. I mean, gratefulness, extension of gratefulness.
Absolutely. What follows an awareness? Rajima, maybe you may want to switch off your video, Rajima, please. Awareness of what providence has provided, followed by an attitude of being grateful and thankful. This is true bhakti. And when you have these two elements, which is awareness of what you have and being thankful, it arrests the nature of the mind. I hope you get the connect.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful, Shashikant. Arbiji, when you have these two elements of bhakti triggered in you, how does it arrest the nature of your mind?
Provides some direction. So away from those things that are mundane, ephemeral, so forth, and guide your mind away from those things.
But isn't that the principle of all yoga? Any yoga you perform, it takes your mind off the lower and plants it on the higher. That's a fundamental principle we said, isn't it? But in specific, bhakti deals with one particular thing. In the context of we're saying is being thankful and thankful followed by being grateful. Awareness of what you have. In fact, one is awareness of what you have and being thankful and grateful. So when these two come to the forefront, it arrests the nature of the mind. So what you have to examine is what is the nature of the mind here? We're talking which nature of the mind we're talking about.
So it's the mind that's unruly, the monkey mind, it's just everywhere. So instead no.
See, when we say you're being grateful for what you have, what is the opposite of being grateful for what you have? I'm just trying to make it so simple, break it down so we know the opposite of it. What is the opposite of being thankful for what you have? Or being aware of what you have, not even being thankful. What is the opposite of it?
Yeah, it's resenting or neglecting that.
In fact, don't have to, you would look the little opposite. Wanting, what is the opposite of wanting more?
Wanting less.
This means I have enough, thank you, I'm aware, I've got so much. One is to be aware of what you have. Another is be unmindful of what you have and desire more, isn't it? Crave for more. Is it not, sir? Awareness of what I have what so much with me. And I'm thankful to the Lord. Other thing is you develop lobha, you develop greed, you develop avarice, you are chasing your desires, you're extroverted. This is the opposite of bhakti. So when you develop bhakti, it arrests this avaricious tendency of the mind to run outward and calms the mind. Shanti, shanti. What you want to, what all you want to grab for yourself, how much you want to grab for yourself. Let life fill you. Why you want to grab it? If you work with the spirit of service and sacrifice, life fills you. You got to be contented at every phase, as Samyama says, very true. You got to be contented at every stage. And let life fill you with your efforts rather than craving and developing that greed. Bhakti arrests this. This is a direct antidote for the mind craving. Okay, Arbiji?
Yes, Guruji.
Right. Yes, Subhashi, you're right. Bhakti is an art to tame the mind, to surrender to the higher. Very true. It's an art, indeed an art. Well said. Yes, Setuji, you want to say something?
Guruji, I remember to have read about Ramana Maharshi. Although all these three paths are there, ultimately final realization takes place through jnana to everyone. As you pointed out in the past, everyone has got all the three bhakti jnana, but the final self-realization takes place through jnana.
I don't know whether you can say it as a thumb rule, but ultimate realization happens through silence, silencing through meditation, So that the three parts, the gateway to self-realization is uparati. Uparati is a mental withdrawal from the world. So there are the three parts, the karma, bhakti, jnanam. When you perform these three parts, as per your individual proportion, no two human beings are the same. So when you perform this, then you reach a common point. Thereafter, everything is common. So all of us, let's say, have different combinations. So you can be 30, 40, 30% karma, 30% bhakti, 40% jnana. That's your proportion. Let's say Gayatri Ma is 70% karma, 10% bhakti, 20% jnana. Example, I think in particular. RPG is 90% jnanam, 5% bhakti, 5% karma. This is, I'm very precise here. So you may differ with it, but that is my assessment of you without meeting your RPG.
You're right on the bhakti, 5%, for sure.
So other two is a little wild guess, you say, is it?
Yeah, it's probably not so much 95, but the bhakti part is spot on.
Yeah, I know. So whatever be it, so each one would have a specific tailor-made path based on your proportion. But once you have done enough of it, you reach a common point. From there on, the path is common. So you reach a state of uparati. Uparati, as I've said, is mental withdrawal. So your mind has withdrawn completely from the world. There's so much happening in the world. There could be poverty, there would be people without food, there could be people starving with disease, there's deficiencies. Your mind is not interested in all that. Now your mind is interested. You want to go into the woods, you want to go into the villages, you want to serve the people here, you want to do that there. Karma, you're still doing karma. Lot of karma, lot of good karma you're doing. But mind is still not withdrawn, isn't it? Can you sit calmly where you are and say, let me contemplate on the self? I'm being specific, Setuji, to you. Can you do Atma Vichara? Can you do Swadhyaya the whole day? No. Setuji is everywhere. Suddenly he says, Guruji, I am not here in the class today because I had to go. Where have you gone? You've gone somewhere deep into the woods, in the villages, somewhere to look into the needs of their people. I didn't even know the existence of the village, but somehow he figures it out, mobilizes resources, goes and executes it, ensures it's done, prepares a project, and then there it just swells from there. It grows. You're doing selfless karma. Where is selfless karma you're doing? Where is the state of mental withdrawal from the world? I'm not saying you're less or more evolved. I'm not talking of that at all. So I'm only talking of the three parts. Right, sir? Uparati is where you reach a state of 80 to 85% of spiritual state, where you're withdrawn from the world. And then comes dharana. Dharana is known as an open-eyed meditation. Because I've mentioned percentage, I'm mentioning. let's say 85%, you reach a state of dharana. And then from 85 to 95, 98%, you do dharana. Dharana is open-eyed meditation, means you are, whatever little action you're doing, whatever you're doing, the only sole objective of that is realization. There is no other thought. You're doing gardening, you're doing only for self-realization. Nice point, isn't it, Ridigaru? You're doing gardening only for self-realization. Please pick up that idea. Yes, sir.
Perfectly spotted, Guruji.
But don't keep justifying it and where to meet Ridigaru. Oh, he's in the garden. Whenever we want to meet you, you are in the garden. No, it should not be that way. But
Yes.
so uparati, mental withdrawal, then dharana, then comes dhyana. Dhyana is single pointed meditation. Dhyana is where you sit with your eyes closed in a chosen place. It's not a chosen time anymore. It's a chosen place where you're all by yourself, irrespective of time, place, position. You are just by yourself, and all you want is to be set your mind aloft in that meditative state where you're completely disconnected from the world because you shut your eyes. You're not interested in the world anymore. That perhaps is very demanding for all of us to perform because we're all running around doing all our karmas, all our actions. We can't just sit quiet with eyes closed without our mind bothering or disturbing you. Can you? Be true to yourself. You and I can sit with my eyes closed, seemingly meditating, but is your mind also meditating? Your mind doesn't meditate. It's a perfect time to mind to catch up all what you have not been thinking of. Hey, I have not watched that movie Kashmir Files. I should go. I've been very busy. When? While you're meditating, you're thinking of Kashmir Files. Oh, I forgot. IPL has started. I have not watched a single game also. I should find out what is the score. In fact, you'll midway during the meditation, you'll open your phone and say, hey, what is the IPL chart? Which team is performing where? And after that, you go back to meditation again. This is how your mind is behaving while your so-called meditation going on. There's tamasha going on here. You know? There is only a joke. Meditation is only a joke in the modern context. The real meditation is your mind is absent completely from the world. So, Sidhuji, in answer to your question, do people attain realization culminating in jnanam? It's not strictly so. You will stick with your combination. But even though in Atma Bodha also there is a saying that everything culminates with jnanam. Jnanam there he says in terms of the awakening, but not in bookish knowledge, not necessarily so. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a rational person. For example, you take Ramdas, Tulsidas or Sant Kabir, you know, they're very poetic. We are reading too much into what Kabirji is saying. I'm sure he meant all that, but they were not as intellectuals as, let's say, Adi Shankaracharya, you know, they were not as profound in that wisdom, but yet they were same state. You can't say Adi Shankaracharya is any great than Tulsidas or Ramdas or Mirabai. All of them attain the same state. You and I don't talk of them because we have taken the Jnana Marga. But those who take the Bhakti Marga, they worship them as if they are gods themselves. So you can't hold anybody less or more. But the common journey is after a certain stage, the common journey, uparati, dharana, dhyana, and then moksha, enlightenment. That last phase from 85 to 100% realization is common. Rajima, you can have your camera on, Rajima. Does that help, Sidhuji? Sidhuji, does it help? Is that okay?
Huh?
Does it clarify what you were asking, sir?
Very much good.
Right, sir. Right. Ella correct sonna Hariji. Because again, after the class, sometime Hariji will send me a message. Guruji, this is you said this wrong here. It is wrong there. Then I'll have to do a lot of study. So now I'm correcting myself on the screen itself, in front of everybody. Solungo, sir.
I think it is, regarding everything ends in jnana, that if my memory is correct, it comes in chapter 4. Culminates, all actions culminates in this one. I don't remember exactly the words.
That is culminating in wisdom is,
In chapter
you know,
4. Yeah.
Nityam yajna pratishthitam, he says.
Yeah.
That's the line you're quoting, you know. All actions culminate in wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, when he talks of the chakra, you know.
Yeah. In chapter 4.
Sahayajna prajashrashtva, and then he says Nityam yajna pratishthitam, all culminates in wisdom. So yeah, but that is in a slightly different context, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right. We'll take up. RPG, all okay? Still, you have not changed your post.
Good, Guruji.
Good. Huh? Okay. So I was concerning you. Are so deep thought you were.
Yeah, I was in deep thought, but I'm good.
Good. All right.